Hey Ian, you ready?
You bet I am. What are we talking about tonight? And talk about guns?
If it's not a 30 cal, I'm not in.
Jeez, mate, that's not very inclusive. Have you seen Jono?
Hey Jono, you ready?
Well, God knows where he is, mate. He's probably caught up in the neighbour's wire again. You ready to go? Let's do this.
Mate, I'm ready. Let's crank it up.
Righto then. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Hunter's Campfire, where we're going to talk about all things hunting and the great outdoors. And we'll probably throw in a few tips along the way.
You want a tip? Say it once, say it 1,000 times. Goats love rocks.
Or a few things about deer. Mark, what do you reckon about deer?
As a deer hunter, I love hunting pigs.
Well, that's about as useful as I expected it to be. Oh, check it out. Here comes Jono. He's being chased by the neighbour's dog.
Okay guys, let's get this started. Welcome to the Hunter's Campfire. Pull up a chair, get comfortable. It's time for the Hunter's Campfire. Good evening, sports fans.
G'day, Mark.
Hey, how are you, Ian?
Back at it. Pretty good. Pretty good for a frosty, disgusting winter, sleety yesterday, foggy, middle of winter. You know, it's just joyous up here on the hill.
You mean like a normal
Toowoomba winter day, yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thanks for asking.
And with this, and with this is not Jono again. We had a replacement for Jono last week, but this is another replacement for Jono. No, we've got Rhys Bosley with us tonight. How are you, Rhys?
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, it's good to...
And I've got my Hunter's Campfire T-shirt.
Yes, we see that. I've got my Qd T-shirt. I'm trying to get them to sponsor me, mate.
Still hasn't happened.
And I don't think it will. But anyway, we live in hope. So, how are you going, Rhys?
Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm very busy with everybody's busy, but with the state election campaign. But also, I've managed to do a bit of work on state forest hunting and other recreational access, which I'm pretty happy about.
I think that's a perfect segue to introduce Rhys more properly. For those Facebookites or Facebook files, right? Rhys runs the Queensland State Forest, the State Forest Hunting for Queensland Facebook page, as well as the Queensland State Forest User Alliance Facebook page. And most recently, Rhys is running as an independent in the Queensland seat of Algester for the forthcoming Queensland State Election. And my understanding, that seat is currently a Labor-held seat, so it's part of the government. Is the member a cabinet minister or part of the backbench?
Not just the member; she's a cabinet minister.
So so running, you decided to go hard and go against the cabinet minister. So well done, you. So Rhys is going to give us a rundown on a few things. Obviously, for us Queenslanders, and especially for Queenslanders in the Algester electorate, we want you to learn a little bit about Rhys and about his connection to forest use and hunting and advocacy. But before we do that, Ian, we probably should talk about venture hunting.
Oh, yeah. There was one other really important thing.
Since you're wearing your hat, we might as well talk about venture hunting.
Hell, that was a great event.
Yes, it was.
I didn't manage to talk about the best thing that happened to me this week other than venture.
You forgot about
there was another thing.
Okay.
There was another thing. It's winter, right? I was just talking about how cold it was up here.
Is it the Beretta thing that happened?
No, something completely different.
No,
this will blow you away.
Okay, sure.
Are you ready for it? Okay, here we go.
Yes, I am.
Sorry, Rhys, this is where we take the podcast early.
That's fine.
It's cold up here, and my office is inside if you had a refrigeration unit in here, it would be a freezer, because it's made of refrigeration panel. So when it's cold outside, eventually it gets really freaking cold inside because cold comes through the glass. Anyway, my son came up to play with me up here when I was working. He came back from school and he came up here. And what do you know, the very next day, the air conditioning remote was gone and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I spent a long time talking to my son about coming up to my office and playing with things that he shouldn't. And then I pulled the office apart and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I had him come back up here to have another look at it. And guess what I found today?
The remote.
Yay.
And guess where it was?
Where it should
In
have
its
been all
holder
the
on the
time.
wall.
That's right.
Brilliant.
Where it should have been.
I'm sorry for having to tell everyone that story, but most males will appreciate that no one puts the air conditioning remote away. And that was the last place that I thought I'd look. Anyway, sorry, I just had to bring us all back to being humans for a second. Venture, how good was that event?
I'm very excited by not only the good fortune that the guys from Venture have experienced in this weekend when it opened, but more for me, the sign, the tiny little positive sign that says about the interest of in hunting in Queensland. It's
alive.
That's for me. That's what the big thing is. I mean, it's a fantastic store, but that kind of this interest in hunting is really special. Do you want to talk about the store, or what are we going to do?
Well, I want to talk about their just the way they've gone about it. Rhys,
Yes.
Did you get down there at all?
No, I didn't get down there this weekend, but I will be. It's not
You'll
far
make
from
it.
me.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fairly close. They first and foremost, they have excellent marketing skills. They've got people that work with them that take incredible video footage. They were able to put quite an exciting build up to the store. So it wasn't just the opening of a gun shop; it was the opening of a hunting store and a place that people are going to go to learn and understand and seek advice and those sorts of things. But the build up was amazing, and the proof was in the hundreds and hundreds of people that were lined up out the front on Saturday morning, and again on Sunday morning. And after talking to Sam down there yesterday, he said it was just as busy on Monday. And Monday's obviously it's a normal work day back for people, so you would have thought that the numbers tailed off again, but nope, still busy, really, really busy on Monday. So I think they were blown away by the support the community gave them. And as I think it was Taylor that said, hunting is absolutely alive in the community of Southeast Queensland because they came out in absolute force. It was unreal to see.
If you haven't had a chance to get down there, one, it's big, and two, it's not a gun shop. It's absolutely not a gun shop. You walk in, and the first thing you hit is barbecues. So they've got all the high quality barbecues and barbecue rubs and all that stuff, because obviously that's a huge part of what hunting's about. And then they've got a section of lightweight hunting gear, tents, sleeping bags, and that's growing. Great selection of boots, and then quite a floor space of clothing, and the big brands, Stony Creek, Hunter's Element, Swazi, Ridgeline, and a couple of others that I never heard of. There's an American brand. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It wasn't Puma,
I've forgotten
something
it as well.
like that. Wasn't it?
They've
never
got
seen it before.
Big tickets on it. They think it's a rival to a couple of the big brands that don't really make it over here, like First Light. So they've done a pretty good job of bringing that here.
Big, so, and then an accessory section upstairs, because the venture hunting guys have a real I suppose tradition or connection to spearfishing. That's their kind of what they where they came from. So there's a huge spearfishing section upstairs on a mezz level. There's also a really big bow section. I mean, it's like a bow shop. It's that big. I think they've got two 20-yard lanes up there, archery lanes, optics obviously, and then a really impressive gun room. It's a gun room. It's not like a rack. You walk into it and just one whole wall, lots of stuff, and you're not like it's not like the concert, and there's not a big burly guy with a red sash. You can actually get up and have a look and touch and feel and stuff like that. First time I've ever seen Rigby rifles on a showroom wall, other than in Rigby itself, which was pretty special. Lots of gear and and their knives and all that kind of stuff. So just really hunting flavored rather than a gun store with a bit of hunting gear. And I haven't really seen anywhere like that in Australia, to be honest. I believe there is a place in Tasmania called the Hunter's Hut, which is similar, but it reminds me of for me personally, reminds me of the hunting and fishing stores in New Zealand.
Yeah,
it's got that feel. And the gun room reminds me of English gun rooms where you kind of walk into them and it's a big gun, lots of stuff on the wall. So really impressive. And it's all about hunting. And they're talking about how they want to change the optics around hunting, and they just spoke things about social license. And we were lucky to get invited to an industry evening, which basically just ended up being a lot of guys a lot of people standing in a car park eating really, really nice food, which was this wild.
It's a real pity, wasn't it? Apparently they did. This is how you cook venison display during the day, and us poor souls had to show up in the evening and eat it.
Yeah,
because they had to go somewhere.
That's right, and just ate a lot of food, ate a lot of wild game meat. And then just had a very, very friendly chat in the car park. We got to meet a lot of people. I'm as I said, to me the vibe of it and the feeling that it's about hunting, and the fact that they said that they made mention of people said, oh, Queenslanders aren't interested in camo. Basically it was just walking outdoor all day. People buying camo.
Why do you think that comment was made? That's an interesting comment.
I think it's because no one's really stocked it. And when they have stocked it, most gun shops don't stock camo. And when they do stock camo, it's a pretty small selection. And so I'm sure that once, the small, mediums, large is gone, extra large is gone, there's, triple XLs and double SLs or whatever it's small, and that sits there for ages. But I it's obvious that people want it. I mean, they're buying it. So, so it was a strange observation, that it was repeated to us that someone had made. I didn't seem to be the case at all. People wanted the stuff. I think it's because it's just like anything, buying clothing's hard to buy online. And so, if it's not in the shop, you're either buying it online or you're just not buying it. So when it's available to you, you're going to jump at it.
The thing that stood out for me was, we've met a few of the guys down there, guys and girls. They were super keen to work with us on a couple of different fronts, which will show up in the next little while. But it was obvious that mainly the guys that we were speaking to, they live and breathe the lifestyle. They work there, but they're all hunters. They've got some beautiful images on the wall, huge big photos. And the one that struck me the most, because I enjoy hunting with a dog, was a fella that was hunting with a dog. And there was a gentleman there that I hadn't been introduced to at the time that turned out to be the owner. And when I was just casually having a chat to him, I asked him who the dog handler was, and it was him. I just didn't recognize him in the camo. So from the owner down to all of the staff members, they're all hunters. They jump the ditch. They hunt in New Zealand. They've hunted overseas. They obviously love what they do. So they're the right type of people to be going and talking to in the retail space. So anyway, watch the space. I think they're going to move and shake the industry a little bit. And I'll be interested in your feedback, Rhys, once you get there.
I just wanted to say that it's really great to hear that Venture Hunting's doing, setting up such a comprehensive store down in our part of the world. There's a number of good stores, and there's clearly the market for it. And I'll talk more about that later on about the Algester Logan type area. But anyway, I wanted to chat a little bit first about state forest hunting. I haven't done a lot of actual lobbying because my life's been taken up by running for Algester, but I did manage to fit in a trip up to Bundaberg to talk to Property Rights Australia, who are an agricultural advocacy organisation. They've been around for about 20 years now. And I got a message. I've published a few articles on their page and also on the Green Shirts, and I got a message saying that their conference was on. Went up and they had you know, they had Jim Wilmont, who runs it, and Dale Stiller, who's also another very, very heavily involved, and a whole bunch of you know, quite prominent graziers. But they had as a special guest up Mick Harrington, who's from Forest and Wood Australia, which is predominantly about the Victorian forests. And Mick, it was really interesting because he's really passionate about keeping the forests open. They've got the same threats that we've got here about closing forests, and they've done successfully what I've tried to do in the Queensland State Forest User Alliance, is bring together interests, but they've actually got it up to a standard where they've got groups working together, and they really understand. The first question I asked them was, what do you see the role of recreational users in keeping the forests open? And Mick said, absolutely critical, because they come from the city, they're in Labor seats, and they're a really important influence in terms of our political power. And that's what I've been trying to get across with the Queensland State Forest User Alliance, with State Forest Hunting for Queensland. We need to get across the message that we can help the farmers, we can help the other people in regional areas through our political clout in the city, and that's why we need to engage people in hunting and other forms of outdoor recreation, and that public land access is the way to do that. And they've of course got fantastic public land access already in Victoria, but you know, we need to improve it here. And you know, I think that the guys at Property Rights Australia are understanding how we can work together. I mean, they're naturally, you know, cautious because, or prudent. I'd say more prudent than cautious, because they, you know, run cattle on grazing leases and in neighbouring properties, and they want to know that they're not just going to have a group of yahoos through. But they were willing to talk about, well, you know, say, can you send us information about the New South Wales R licensing system, for instance? So I was able to send, of course, all that great material off that website. So I think that was a really important contact, and I was glad that I made the trip up to Bundy to make that connection. So I think that's good news that we're starting to, you know, it's a lot of it takes a long time for people to sort of understand a different perspective, and also for us to understand the farmer's perspective. And I think that those understandings of how we can work together are starting to happen in Queensland now.
So before you move on, this is another voice to the cause, is basically what you're saying, by having them sympathetic to what we want to do, and vice versa. This is basically gelling two groups that want to keep the forests open in Queensland, and it's going to give us more voice. That's what that was about.
That's exactly right. It's about aligning interests in keeping the forest open. People who want to use the forest, both commercial and also recreational.
It's interesting you say that, because whilst I like the guys from CAP, and we've had them on the podcast, one of the things that annoy me is when they do the city and country divide. Now, I understand why they do it. I'm completely aware of why they do it. But that's one of the things that, you know, doesn't gel with me, this kind of city country divide, you know. And you know, the guy from you know, you said Mick from Victoria, saying, well, you know, city people might live in Labor electorates, but they want to have an outdoor lifestyle, and if you can get them on board, they actually become a voice within those electorates and actually can influence policy, because they're simply numbers, and you know, and they're voters as well, and you know, that they can actually have some pushback. I really like that idea, because, you know, I think if you look at venture hunting, I would say that the majority of people who went to venture hunting lived in a pretty, you know, a reasonable proximity to that store. So there's this very, very big group. And I mean, I've always said that. I mean, the biggest gun shops in Queensland were always in Brisbane and Redcliffe, but they're within, you know, stone's throws of each other. So there's this, and I don't know how many people are at Belmont Range, how many members there is at the Belmont Range. I know SSAAQ have got 80,000 members, but I don't know how many are members of Brisbane alone. And when you throw in Brisbane and Ripley into that, there's a lot of people here who are, hunters, gun owners and things like that. And to actually find a voice that kind of can gel them is something I think we're missing.
Yeah. I guess the thing, and just for disclosure for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a Qd Australian Party member, even though I'm running as an independent. I'll talk more about that later. But the people in country Queensland have got bigger problems than like essentially recreational issues. We we can be allies, but they're worried about things like like this city ideology, sticking windmills and solar farms and big transmission lines all over their properties and ruining essentially the rural landscape, for example, or sticking a massive hydroelectric dam out all over this prime land to run this supposed renewable grid that we've got. And they've got these roads which are useless. So when Robbie and Mick and Shane and Bob are all talking about the city country divide, they're talking about those issues.
Look, as I said, I completely agree, but I suppose
I know how it can come across, but from our perspective, we've got a lot to prove. We've got a lot to prove. We've got a lot of goodwill to prove to them because they're being treated badly. I'll just give you an example, and a little bit off topic, but it's just a little bit of an example. In northwest Queensland, where Robbie is the candidate, they've got higher rates of voluntary assisted dying than 50% higher than elsewhere in the country or elsewhere in the state now that it's been introduced. And I support it. Robbie doesn't, but he said, at least if you don't support it, we at least need enough palliative care services so people aren't using it as a choice because they can't get proper health care. Those are the sorts of things that Robbie's worried about when he's when he's saying Brisbane's shafting us, because we are in reality. So
I just wish you would say, to be honest, I just wish you would say George Street is shafting them, because I think there's actually a hell of a lot of people who live in Brisbane and around who actually think that's a terrible thing.
Yeah, but
and that
and that's why it's important that we have people who become politicians in Brisbane who care about what goes on in the bush. And this is a big part of my platform. Now, the LNP, they're meant to be a city country party. They're bloody hopeless. They've got, I think it's 17 or 18 members in Brisbane. When have you heard one of those people going around talking about what their rural constituencies are going through, what the challenges they face? I've never heard any of them. Why I feel like, I'm really the only candidate who's trying to do that, trying to bridge that divide at the moment. So, so that's the challenge that those guys face, is that they've really got lousy representation. And the CAP guys, I mean, they run rings around the LNP. They're in terms of the work they do and everything. So, yeah. But anyway, that's off the topic a little bit. But no, so I just thought that Property Rights Australia was a good sort of a connection for us to make, and it's good to see that we're making progress. It took them 25 years well, depending on who you talk to, 18 or 25 to get state forest hunting in New South Wales. I hope we can get it quicker than that. I've been at it over a decade now, so I'm hoping to get it soon. But it's clear to me that it's just an ongoing process of work to do.
So does this newfound friendship then, like how do you bond it together? How do you then bring their voice and our voice together to shake the trees a little bit more? It's nice to have the conversation, but what next? How does it help?
Well, I mean, at the moment it's informal. I've got no formal relationship with them, and there's only me. I'm hoping to set a bit of an example to others of how to do it. But it's about, say, for instance, I put out an advertisement on Facebook about the impact of renewables, and in the city areas, despite what everybody says, they're going to cost us a mozza. It's a really stupid policy that they've got, trying to entirely rewire our grid with renewables. But it's also impacting the rural areas in terms of their property rights and ruining their farms and the like. And that was probably as a consequence of the conversations I had at that meeting. So it's about being able to learn what goes on in regional and rural Queensland and what's bothering them, and being able to articulate that, and then being able to frame it in ways that they will understand, that people in the city will appreciate, about their hip pocket. And it's also about having the conversation back. And to your point, Mark, about you get a bit you don't necessarily like the Brisbane bashing. It's also about
more the fact that I don't like the divide. The
divide.
I don't mean, look, if Brisbane needs to be bashed, we'll bash it. But it's about that divide. I think there's a strong undercurrent of people who don't see that divide. Who actually think that divide's wrong. I know that we tend to say things like Chardonnay sipping, whatever it is, like that. But there's a hell of a lot of people in, the greater Brisbane area and the southeast who aren't Chardonnay sipping types.
Well, and I have that conversation, and this is what I'm getting to as well, is that if we've got people who are making the effort in Brisbane, you can have that conversation back and say, well, really, they're not all latte sippers.
That's it, or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Where I live, they're not, and they do care about rural areas, but they've also got their own problems, like they can't afford a house and they're stuck in traffic for 3/4 of an hour a day, and they can't get a hospital bed, and they've got problems as well, and their problems are very real to them. So that's what actually, it's what the LNP should have been doing all along, and they don't. They say one thing in one place and one thing in the other, and hope that nobody notices. And everybody does, because we've got the internet now. I don't know where they think everybody's stupid. But
it's only a fad. It'll go away.
That's right.
So anyway, I think that it's very interesting culture. But so that's the good news with state forest hunting. I just wanted guys to talk about our general shooting and hunting rights, and I'm glad that you were raising the topic about the interest in hunting in Brisbane, because we really need to understand that without effective political action, we might not be doing it in a decade's time. And I'm not exaggerating.
No, that's not scaremongering. That's the real deal.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through the list of things that have happened recently that make me worry about that. Western Australia, limits to the numbers of rifle, 5 for hunting. 10 for target shooting. At one stage, and I don't know where this got, but they wanted everybody to have a psychiatric test once a year to have a firearms license, which is just the most ridiculous thing. Like psychologists and psychiatrists haven't got better things to do. But it's that's a really and cartridge bans are the most powerful cartridges, so that's a massive limitation. I mean, I've got 6 rifles and a pistol now. I mean, most people have got a lot more than that. I've deliberately trimmed mine down. That's a massive limitation on people's ability to do what they want to do, and also on those businesses that sell those items, and it's completely unjustified. So that's the big one. South Australia have banned bow hunting. They're heavily involved in aerial deer culling, so they're essentially wiping out those deer herds. Victoria are pushing massive forest lockups of areas that are already being hunted, so that's important. They're proposing a lead ammo ban, not just for ducks, but or for waterfowl, but also for deer hunting and the like as well. They want everybody to use copper bullets. There's the ongoing threat to duck hunting, which got headed off this year, but nevertheless, it's year to year. Tasmania was a weird one. They made everybody get their pre-1900 firearms license. The police decided they wanted that to happen. So we get to Queensland. In Queensland, the government's just introduced the Community Safety Bill, which I think is a big political smokescreen because there's so much discontent around law and order, and I think they're trying to deflect onto us. Essentially, they're trying to start an argument about guns. Very large bill, massive implications for civil liberties. Even the Queensland Council of Civil Liberties and a whole range of other organisations were worried about that bill. The big ones for us are the police powers, and I'm talking about, sort of the actual police, not necessarily with getting a court order to order the removal of internet content that they don't like. Big implications potentially for you guys, I would imagine. And also the really nasty one is guilt by associations for firearms prohibition orders by police officers, which basically means that a police officer can take somebody's firearms off them for a period of time because of who they're related to, the house they're living in, whatever. In particular, implications for rural workers. There's
that was a big one.
Security guards. I'm worried in my electorate because we've got a lot of people of various different ethnic descents who I know will get discriminated against. I think that First Australians will get discriminated against because we know that there's been racism in the police force, and some poor person who's a security guard who needs his pistol for, cash protection, or some poor guy who is a First Nations ranger or something like that, or a jackaroo or jillaroo. What happens to them if somebody in their family loses, does something and they lose access to their firearms? I think that's a really serious problem. And of course, we've got our knife law changes where they're going to make all, Target and everybody lock up all the kitchen knives, and they're going to have police patrolling Target, making sure that the kitchen knives, and that's apparently going to stop knife crime. It's just, I can't fathom how stupid these people are. So and also the big medium to long-term threat is that the Greens are likely to get 2 more MPs and be up to 4 MPs in the next parliament. I don't think that they're likely to get the balance of power this election because I think it's going to swing too hard against Labor for that. But the LNP have a special talent for losing elections after a very short period of time. And and as well as that, you can't trust them, really. The LNP have thrown us under the bus before and they would do it again. So I think that there's good odds within the next 2 to 3 terms of having a Greens-Labor government. The Greens, the big one for them is they want to ban semi-automatic handguns. And that would be something that would be easy for them, for the Labor Party to offer up to the Greens to keep them happy. It gives them an opportunity to ban something and throw everybody who likes shooting a Glock or a Beretta under the bus. So we've got really big threats, and they're here now, and we need to do something about it now. Did you guys want to speak?
I did want to speak. I did want to ask a question. Well, not so much ask a question, but there was a bit that I read in, I don't know if it was Socials or it was a magazine or it was something in the news along the lines of this bill that you were talking about, that if you had any sort of history that would preclude you from having a firearms license, you would not be allowed to stay or work anywhere that had firearms. So if I had something against me that would stop me getting that, I couldn't work in a rural community. I couldn't work on a farm. I couldn't work anywhere that had a gun storage facility at all, which I think that was a real hard one for me to think about.
And the police are already like we're getting. I talk to gun clubs where people are storing their firearms at the clubs because somebody in their house might have a mental health condition or something like that, and the police are wanting them to do that. So there's a real push towards that, and it's, you know, I just I'd like to see the risk assessments on these things. I'd like to see, what's really the odds of something going wrong, and how big an issue is this compared to everything else that's going on in our community at the moment. We've got rampant crime, and there just seems to be, this, I don't know, just complete paranoia about something which doesn't actually, you don't hear a lot about legal firearms being misused. So that, it bothers me both from the fact that some people do believe that we're this dire threat that we're not. And it bothers me as well that there's people, and I believe that that's what the government are doing with this community safety bill, that there's people who will exploit that and try and use, irrational fears to essentially scapegoat us and cover up for other things. It's something I've really learned while I've been involved in politics. A lot of it's about getting something topical in the news to block out other people's issues. That's why they will release a controversial policy, say during the week during estimates. They release stuff during the middle of elections and in the middle of controversial periods. And I think that's what this bill is about. It's about trying to create a smokescreen. It's also about trying to use up time in Parliament so that bills like Nick DeMetto's Castle Law Bill, which got 40,000 signatures on the associated petition, so that can't be debated. So what they've done is they've basically prioritised, and this is Labor and the LNP are on the committee that's made this decision. They prioritised going through the community safety bill, and they deferred the Castle Law Bill until November after the election. So I really believe that this thing's being used to basically try and suppress debate, and it's really crook. It's not only is it victimising us, but it's also denying Queenslanders an informed decision at the election, and I think that stinks. It
sounds like politics.
Yeah, it's what it is, isn't it? It's exactly what it is. It's politics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's modern politics. Unfortunately, it's they essentially want to do everything that they can to prevent an informed debate and use trickery at every opportunity, and I just think it's disgusting. But anyway, yeah. So my campaign, I'm very much focused on grassroots day-to-day issues, as you guys see from my social media, because I'm seeking election to represent the people of Algester, not the. The shooting community are an important community to me, but I've got to worry about making sure that about policies for traffic and healthcare and housing and cost of living and the like. So day to day, I'm focused on that, and you'll see I do a lot of door knocking and going to community organisations. I've done a fair bit of media, do advertising, all of those various things, and in order to get us a seat in Parliament, and for the shooting community, that means would mean that you'd have somebody there who's sympathetic and can help oppose all of these very unfair restrictions that they're trying to put on us. Now, this electorate is not anti-gun from what I've seen. It's like I said, we've got 2 gun shops, a pistol range, we've got at least 1 gel blaster store, and I've met 2 hunters, including an R-licensed hunter, while I've been door knocking. I got invited to clay shooting in a volunteer organisation that I was involved in, which was right at the beginning of things. I did a presentation on ideas about the outdoor recreation industry and the link to public land to the Chamber of Commerce, and they were very willing to listen on that. This is what we get to about the preconceptions about us all being latte sippers in the city that we've got to break. This place isn't all latte sippers, And, not that, it's anything wrong with enjoying a latte. I, fully support that. But, like, people have a realistic view of firearms ownership. They just want to know that they just naturally want to see there's a natural degree of caution. The thing that I will constantly get when I discuss these types of issues is we don't want to be like America. That's what they say, is we don't want to be like America. They don't necessarily know what that means in detail, but they know they don't want massacres, and none of us want that. But they just want to know that whatever we're proposing is not going to put public safety at risk, and I think that's fair enough. And it's incumbent on us to assure them of that based on evidence and truth and reason. And I think that we can do that for hunting and the hunting and shooting that we do. So really, what I'm trying to do here in this electorate is I'm trying to essentially be like a test case for. We need to avoid those Greens getting the balance of power. We need to be knocking off Labor Party seats, because every Labor Party seat that gets knocked off by somebody who's friendly towards firearms owners, it makes it harder for them to swing and win government with the help of the Greens. And I think there's really a real desire for people in these electorates for an alternative. They don't like the fact that they feel like they're owned by the Labor Party, but they're not LNP voters. So there's a real desire for people who are able to provide an alternative, a credible alternative. So that's what I'm trying to demonstrate. I think it's if the shooting community and other interested groups, the other outdoor community, and all of the other groups who address sort of working class and middle class, middle to outer suburban issues, if they get together, I think that we can knock off a lot of Labor seats and make all of our lives a lot better, not just for shooters, but also everybody else. And I'd also like to see similar things going on in LNP seats. Right now, the priority is Labor because of the threat of the Greens, but I would like to see both of the major parties either smarten up or be replaced, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I'm trying to demonstrate. So that's what I've been up to.
It's a good intro, Rhys.
That's it. So, Rhys, what's your read? What's your read on the forthcoming state election?
Well, it's heavily against Labor because of everything that's going wrong. I mean, the LNP aren't doing anything that sort of looks like they're going to set the world on fire, but I think they're just hoping to sit there and fall over the line just because everybody's annoyed at the massive stuff-ups that Labor have made about everything.
Does it feel like that, though, that they don't have to make too many outlandish promises to bring people across, because Labor's killed himself to start with?
Yeah, well, that's probably part of it, but that's the opportunity, isn't it, for us, is that we can, like the Cadders, for example, they've put up, between the three of them, 9 bills over the last 3 years, 9 private members' bills. The LNP have put up 1. Over that time, there's, I think, 34 LNP members. That's they don't even try to, because what those bills do is, even if they don't pass, they flush out the government in terms of what they believe. But the LNP just haven't done it. They've just sat there and let somebody else fight the battles. And I think people will see through that, and I think that people need to see through it, and they need to, they will want alternatives who can essentially take the balance of power, and so that neither of those major parties has the balance of power. Hopefully neither of them will be called major parties anymore, because they won't, there'll be so many people in the middle who are reasonable.
With that, I mean, you're running as an independent. Now, if I remember, there's 2 more independents who in the current parliament. I mean, is there an independence network? Do you talk to other potential independent candidates?
Well, I'm heavily associated with the Qd Party, and I do it that way because they are staunch supporters of outdoor recreation and shooters. So that's what got me involved in politics. So that's why that matters to me. And they're also, I've just come to realise that they're branded politics in terms of they're just the hardest working people I've ever seen, and they care about their communities. It's hard for them to get in because it's essentially like a startup trying to set up against Coles and Woolies, but when they get in, they're rock stars in their seats. They're on like 70% of the Tea Party preferred. So I've just realised that that's what I want to be like but down here, and that's what I want more of down here. We just need to find ways of getting people into those seats who have similar values about caring about people rather than being owned by these big corporate interests and the unions. Yes. So that's why.
Can I ask the obvious question then? If you want to be a rock star, like these guys that you describe, why are you independent?
Well, because they've got a policy platform that's oriented towards regional and rural Australia and Queensland, and I need to have it associated with the place that I live, and like we've just discussed, they've actually got genuine problems with being neglected, and I'm not, I don't think that they're exaggerating at all. I've been up the Bruce Highway. I drove up to Bundaberg, and you just drive past Gympie, and it's and you start your car's rattling because the surface is so bad. Like the things that they describe about not enough hospital, like not enough renal beds, for example, not enough palliative care beds, they're all real. So they've got to fight their battles, and I've got a different battle, but there's battles that we can fight together, like state forest hunting, like other outdoor recreation access, like youth crime. That's a whole of state issue. And that's why that's a good way of doing it for me. That works for me. And I like them as well anyway.
That's an excellent answer. That's an excellent answer.
I mean, look, we had Nick on. He is a rock star.
Yeah.
If you end up being like Nick, you will be a rock star, mate.
Thanks. Yeah. No, there's only one other independent, Sandy Bolton, and she's fantastic as well. And but she's.
I thought there was two, mate. Okay.
No, there's Sandy Bolton and Stephen Andrews. He's One Nation.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, but and Stephen's great as well. Like he's a shooter and he's really staunch behind us. But Sandy Bolton's at Noosa, and she, I guess, reflects the values of Noosa. In terms that she represents those people and does it really well. So, but I really watch the way she does things, and they're all of those guys who are doing that successfully. Just work really hard in their communities. They care about their communities. They're not relying on a party brand. They just they just represent the people who they're supposed to, and that's how our parliament's supposed to work.
100% agree. It would be a far better outcome if we had more people who are even just bolted to their geographic location rather than bolted to a party structure.
Yeah, that's right.
It's even. I mean, and I speak to people across the political spectrum, and quite honestly, some of the people in those parties are also like that. I mean, there is local members who do really care about their local constituency, but you also have to acknowledge that they kind of there's a bigger machine at play that affects them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's a tricky juggle for them to do as well. Sometimes that's a tricky thing to do.
They just disciplines everything in those parties, and I mean the Labor Party was traditionally the one that was really rigid on discipline, but I'm actually not 100% sure that the LNP is much different nowadays. It's very seldom that you hear an LNP person taking an independent line on things, and like it's they don't stick around for long if they do. So you've got situations like, for instance, with the renewables, which the rural MPs, their communities are dead against, and because they want to win seats in Brisbane, by just telling people what they want to hear about climate change mitigation, then those rural MPs can't represent their electorates effectively. So that's the consequence of those major of being part of those big parties and having no flexibility. There've been proposals, Mark, about independent type networks. I haven't seen anything that really would suit me, and like I said, I like the Katter Party anyway. It's invaluable to be able to learn from people who are already in Parliament and who've got so much experience that you just wouldn't get otherwise. So yeah.
Well, yeah, Katter is basically the third party, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, and I just want to reinforce with people, and in particular your industry stakeholders, if we don't start doing something effective, and if we don't start knocking off Labor seats, these big investments that they're making aren't going to be very long-term investments. And I think that's not exaggerating. We've just seen entire forms of hunting wiped out just at the stroke of a pen in South Australia, and that was because of a sneaky deal they did with the Animal Justice Party, as I understand it. So, you guys talk to these industry stakeholders a lot, and I'd just encourage you and anybody who's listening to say to them, hey, if you want to keep this business going that you've put so much time and effort and money into, then you really need to get behind a decent political effort, not just in Algester, but across these types of seats. And it might take a couple of elections to start seeing people get in, but every person you get in essentially makes it harder for the Labor Party to team up with the Greens.
Okay. Ian, over to you. So I can't think of anything else to ask.
No, I was just going to say you've made the whole subject interesting and easy to listen to, Rhys. You have these conversations from time to time, or you think about them leading up to it, and you kind of wonder how the dry old subject of politics is going to go. But I think you've done a really good job of letting people know why you're doing what you're doing, how important it is, the threats that are out there, how you're modelling yourself to be like others that are doing a great job. Yep. So good on you. You've put in a lot of work. We see it on the socials. Others are probably seeing it on the socials as well. You probably knocked on more doors than anyone, certainly in your electorate anyway. But you're out there fighting the good fight, and I know that you decided to take this on as another step towards the huge effort you've already put towards state forest access. So this is I wouldn't say it's a natural next step, but it was a big next step for you to just say, you know what, this is what I can do. So, we're backing you. I hope you get there. I really do. And if there's anything else we can do, just sing out for sure.
Well, Mark actually told me to do it, so...
there we go.
On the last podcast, I kind of remember that happening.
Oh, that told you to do that. I thought you meant this podcast. No, yes.
Let's rewind the podcast.
Politics. I told Mark he should run up in Pine Rivers, and he said no.
No. This is what does Ned call us? Ned calls us hunting media. This is why.
I think you'd make a great politician, Mark. And you, Ian, if you haven't got your citizenship.
I haven't got it.
Citizenship.
All right, thanks, guys.
I'd have to get involved in the conversation.
All right.
Good on you, Rhys. Okay. Thanks, buddy. We're back.
We're back. Rhys is gone. He's left the building.
Rhys is gone.
Elvis has left the building.
He's got door knocking to do.
That's right. The man who never sleeps is off door knocking.
He's working hard.
You can't fault the guy's dedication, that's for sure. He's picked that. Well, maybe, he lives there, so that's, I suppose he didn't pick it. But for a seat to run in, he's got a tough road in front of him. Cabinet minister, well-known Labor identity. I think probably holds the seat with a pretty good majority. So he's got an uphill battle. I'm going to actually look it up. Queensland Electoral Commission. He's in a tough seat, but from what we can see him on, through at least Facebook, he's given it a damn hard crack. He's door knocking. He's going to events. I'm just looking at his electorate right now. He's always out. He's involved in lots of different things, different groups, community groups, ethnic groups, business groups. He's doing exactly what you want your potential local representative to do, which is be representative, get into the community, not rely on their connections and otherwise be out there. So I got to hand it to him. I think he's doing a fine job.
Yeah, agreed. And I do wish him the best of luck because he's put in the effort. So we'll see where that goes. He's got a couple of months' worth of work left to do, and then we'll see where it all ends up.
I'm trying to find the stats, but I can't find them. So but I'm sure that the incumbent has a good lead, a good, and so it's going to take a swing towards Rhys to, and he's probably not the only candidate in that too. Down at the NLP will have a candidate down there, so it's not just a two-part, 2-horse race. It's not Rhys and the incumbent. He's going to be competing against others, and so it's a tough road. I admire people who put their hat in the ring for politics. It's not an easy job. And I think he's doing he's making a real good go of it. That being said, let's talk about shotgunning.
Ooh, it's my favourite subject.
Yeah, well, not all of us, are to travelling in lofty heights that you are now. If only the Olympics were next year, you'd be there.
It's such an addictive thing. It's crazy. We're 2 hours away from the Olympic men's trap final.
Yes,
is on tonight, and again,
we're running second.
Currently, he's in second place. Yep, James. So we're watching and hoping that he carries on the form, brings a medal home. Hopefully, gets a gold. That'll be amazing. And the women's trap starts this afternoon or this evening as well. The heats, but we've got some good shooters in there as well. So good luck to them. But it is an addictive sport. There's lots of different disciplines, and it's great to see it on the Olympic stage. But it's a real shame, and you may not know this because you don't follow it quite as closely as I am at the moment. For whatever reason, it's one of the only sports that they're not televising the heats.
No. And I even think, and I may have this wrong, one of the graphics of it where they have all the different kind of athletes at different angles.
Yep.
The one I saw, I couldn't identify the shooter on that one. There was an archer on there, but no shooter. Yeah, it doesn't get much love. I suppose the argument is it's not that particularly interesting to watch,
unless you love the sport.
But I think that's just a really bad excuse. You could make rugby league really boring to watch too, with one camera angle sitting on the side. So in today's technology and disability, you could make it quite an entertaining sport to watch. But
Yeah.
If it's got, if it's bottom of the barrel, the crews are, there's only a single crew, one camera and stuff like that, then yeah, probably not that entertaining to watch. But so I kind of I know I've heard that response, I've heard that answer before, but I kind of think that's because you're not putting in the effort to make it entertaining. It would be a very entertaining and competitive sport to watch. It would be just as there are many sports that in the same kind of same kind of structure that we watch quite comfortably.
Anyway, it is what it is. 11:30 tonight, we'll see the finals. That'll be a fairly long event, I imagine. I think that's well, actually, no, it won't be. It'll only be the final 6 shooters. But anyway, I'll be tuning in, whether it's tonight, if I can stay awake, or tomorrow morning. Be good to see. Other than that, we had a really interesting. I had a good day today, actually. Hendo, who's been part of the shotgunning world with us since we decided to take it back up again, got his Beretta shotgun today, 692. So
what do you get? A 692.
692, yeah. So he, we put the request into our good friends at Beretta Australia, and they sorted out a really nice deal for him on it'd be an ex-demo gun, no doubt. But they put a package together for him, and it showed up today. It's funny, we've been talking every day. Have you got your PTA yet? You know what it's like. Have you got your PTA yet?
Yes, yeah. I've got one. I've got one in the moment. I know exactly what it's like.
Oh, yes. Well, he sent me the email yesterday. He goes, PTA. He sent me a text. I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, I got the email. I said, I'll read the email. I'm pretty sure that says that it's been approved, but it hasn't been issued yet.
Right. That's right. The email's got the
PTA. Damn, he says. Anyway, today he sends me a message. The gun shop's got my gun. It showed up today. And I'm like, have you got your PTA? No, I haven't got it yet. Next thing, well, it would have been half an hour, 40 minutes later. I've got my gun. Gosh, she's pretty. I said, righto, bring it over. So he's rocked on over this afternoon. We've thrown it on the pattern board, make sure it shoots straight, which it does, of course. And he's a happy man. So we'll be down to practice. We'll be down to practice tomorrow. He'll come down tomorrow with his gun rather than one that he's borrowing. And we'll get them all sorted out, and we'll be competing on Sunday at Warwick, which will be a good shoot. So good fun.
The Toowoomba Club's the one next to the motorway, isn't it?
It is.
The bypass.
Yeah. I always laughed about that, but not for reasons that I'll talk about on an open podcast.
It's just down there. Just drive past it, look down on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So yes. The struggle that is the PTA with the email that says you've got your PTA. However, this email is not the PTA. We're just telling you that you got the PTA and it's coming. But it's
the way the process works.
I believe that email, every week sends people to gun shops where they kind of have to politely say, sorry, that's not the document. That's just a document that tells you that the document is
Seems like an unnecessary step.
Seems a weird thing, yes. So, it's kind of like, we're going to send you a letter that we're going to knock on your door.
Yeah.
This is an announcement that we're going to make an announcement.
Yeah.
But yes. But I suppose that aside, for most people who've been following along, your two most recent wins is probably the big news. One was the Commonwealth Games trial. What was that? B grade, or did you go up a grade?
The journey back into shotgun shooting. So I left shotgun shooting 10 years ago as a AA grade shooter, which is the highest grade in trap. And because 10 years had lapsed, they bring you back a grade below where you left, as per their rules. Mm-hmm. And then they spend the next. So there's an algorithm on an app basically, and there's no human intervention anymore. Your score gets loaded in, and the algorithm tells you what grade you're going to be in. And because if you're a new shooter, so let me just go. If you're an existing shooter, that algorithm looks at your last 20 scoreable shoots. So if you go to a weekend, there might be 3 competitions in a weekend. a double barrel, a single barrel, or something else. So that's 3. So the scoring algorithm looks at your last 20 shoots and then picks the best 10 out of those and then gives you a percentage of hits. So if you have a really bad run, they're going to just get rid of all of those bad ones and not count them, and they'll only focus on the top 10 in your last 20 shoots. And that's how they give you a grade. So when you come back as a shooter, you don't have 20 shoots under your belt. So it looks like they measure you against every shoot, and they find your natural balance really quickly. But the problem that I had was, if you followed the journey, I came back into shooting with a non-trap gun. It was a field gun. It wasn't designed for it. So
the Ultra Leggera.
That's right. I came back as an A-grade shooter, but didn't have a gun that was suitable for the job. So quickly, my balance dropped to the floor, and then I went to Beretta Australia HQ and selected a gun and got fitted. And the fitting process is not just the bit that you do at the factory with the guys that help you fit. It's a process that takes weeks. So you get it fitted so it fits you, but then you've got to go to a range. You've got to put it on a pattern board, and a pattern board's where you shoot at a board and see where the shotgun pattern goes. And depending on the types of chokes, you'll have bigger pattern, and depending on the way the gun's set up, it'll shoot high or low based on when you're aiming. And for trap shooting, you want somewhere around 30% low and 70% high, or 80-20, whichever it is that you like, right? So you've got to go through all of those processes and then shoot a little bit and then make fine-tune adjustments. And for me, I was right at the limits of the gun's adjustability, and it still wasn't working well for me. It had nothing to do with the fitting. It was all about me as a shooter. So I spent a bit of time with the guys on the phone at Beretta Australia, and they helped me look at the pattern and adjust the way that I shoot to suit the gun. That's not normally how you would do it. Normally you would adjust the gun to suit the shooter, but I was shooting a bit differently. Let's just say that. So sort of 5 or 6 weeks went past, and because I didn't have a gun that was fitting me or working for me properly, my scores were bad, and I ended up dropping all the way back into C grade. Then I sorted the gun out. Just happened to be at the same time that the Commonwealth Carnival came around, which was an event that shooters from all Commonwealth countries can come and shoot at. That sounds massive, but in reality, it's probably more Australia. It's mostly Australia, with a couple of New Zealand shooters. Not too many others were at it, but still a big shoot, and sponsored by ACTA and QCTA. So good prize money for people. So there's a reasonable attractant. And because I just got my gun sorted out, I was lucky enough to win the high gun for the Commonwealth Carnival, which for me was awesome. It was an amazing deal. And for the first competition win back into the sport, it was a pretty big event for me to take out. During that competition, my scores were good enough to grade me up into B grade. So then the next competition that I shot was a B grade competition, which happened to be a couple of weekends ago, which is what they called the Ballindine Brass Monkey. Cool name for a shoot that's in the cold. And the president told me that the reason for the name was that it was cold enough to freeze the hair off a brass monkey's balls.
That's not
or the balls off a brass monkey. Something like that.
You know what that means? Do you know what that means?
It's cold.
No, do you know what a brass monkey is?
Well, I've been told the brass monkey is actually is it the plate that holds the...
No, it's like an upside down pyramid. So it's kind of, and on warships, they put the balls stack it up, but it's like it's upside down.
Yeah,
like an upside down cone.
It was the structure that held the cannonball.
And so you could stack these balls in them, like kind of like a 3D billiard table triangle, and they made them out of brass because the cannonballs were iron, so they didn't want electrolysis to happen for rust. And what would happen is it would get so cold it would contract and it kind of squeeze one and out a ball would fall. And when the balls fall off, that was just cold enough to freeze the balls off a brass monkey.
There you go.
That's what it is, yeah.
The modern day version of that is a brass monkey statue with no balls. But anyway, it was cold. It was freaking freezing down there. So it lived up to its name. And that was my first B grade shoot. And I managed to win the high gun of that as well. So just like really happy to be advancing back up through the grades. It's a little bit of a humbling thing when you think you're a shooter of a certain quality and you re-enter the sport and you sort of got to go all the way back to the beginning again. But that's the sport and it's very competitive. So
with the algorithm, so is it constantly adjusting? So are you constantly moving up and down grades?
Yeah. So it balances out eventually.
Yeah. So it must eventually get up.
You move down a lot slower than you move up.
Yeah. Statistically,
because they're only measuring your high scores, not your low scores. If you go through 20 shoots with really low scores, then you're going to end up dropping down. But the reality is, once you get up into the grades, you're talking about if you're a B grade shooter, if you're an A grade shooter, which is where I'll probably expect to be in the next week or two, I think that's 4 drop targets, maybe 3 drop targets over 100. So it's a 97% hit rate. And that sounds really difficult because when you get to double A grade, it's 99.5% hits. So how do you lose that? Half a target?
Well, it must. Yeah, that's right. It must average those out over hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go to a shoot, and the Ballindine shoot. One of the competitions I shot 50-50, which was good. Excellent shooting for me. A bunch of the others I shot 24s out of 25, and then one of the shoots I shot 20 out of 25. That 20 out of 25 just won't be considered in the algorithm.
Yeah, well, I think they do that in a lot of sports. I think Olympic diving, they take the top and the bottom number and they throw them away and say,
well, they're not that kind. They keep your top numbers here, so they push you up.
I think they take away the both to stop. I think it's actually to stop, fraudulent judging.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah,
you can't if you mark someone too far down, they go, yeah, that's out. And if you mark someone way above everyone, they go, that as well. Yeah, it was a way to to kind of guarantee some kind of fairness in judging across a number of different judges. They remove the top and the bottom.
Yeah. So the algorithm's always moving. If you go to a shoot on Sunday, we'll head out to Warwick. I think there are 3 competitions for the day. If you only shoot one of them, that one will count. And if it's better than your lowest other score, it will replace the other. And your percentage will move up a fraction, is how it works. So, you're working.
And I'm sure people know how to work the system.
Well, I think it's built in such a way it's very difficult to work it.
Because, I'll give you an example. My boys do little athletics. And the way little athletics works is whilst you race in your, under 11 boys, all race are under 11 boys. And on every Friday night, because that's when they have a meet, they do at least 5 events. They rotate the events, but there's always running events, throwing events, and jumping events. And whilst you might run in the same group every week, some kid's always going to win. That's not what actually you get recognised by. You don't get recognised by the win. What you get recognised is your performance at that event against the previous performance. So it's all about PBs. So if you want to get ribbons, you've got to get PBs. So and the ribbons are there's five levels of ribbons over the course of the season. So you've got to get 25 PBs. And what the older kids do, because they're used to it, is the first couple of nights they tank it. So they'll do the 800 and they'll walk. So the next time they do it 800, if they jog it, it's a PB. So you'll see them tanking it, and you'll be going, "Come on, maybe." That's what they're doing. So they'll go long jump, and they'll go, "Look, there's my long jump for this week." So next week long jump, a little bit further, PB, a little bit further, PB. So yeah, that's how they work the system. So I'm wondering if anyone in the shotgun world's figured out how to work the algorithm.
There's a thing that they'll call them burglars, I guess, or professional B graders or professional C graders. If you can stay down in those grades, then you're at the top of it. You're going to win the crash prizes.
That's right.
There's good prizes. I used to joke that you'd spend thousands of dollars to win a toaster or an ironing board. And I remember Scott saying, "Oh, the prizes are better these days, mate. You should have another crack." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Well, the prizes aren't half bad." But you can go to some of these shoots and you could win the competition for your grade and maybe cover your costs.
Yeah.
In some cases, you'll do better than that, and that's all fine. It's not all about doing that, but the algorithm has made it very hard to cheat because if you're investing, and I say this, you're investing. The basic competitions are one day or on a weekend. Every weekend, somewhere around me, there is a Sunday shoot. Be it Warwick, Toowoomba, Toogoolawah, Dalby, Brisbane, Gold Coast, you can go somewhere every weekend. You just got to pick your spot and go. And that one day might cost you $75 to $100. So it's costing you that to enter, then it's costing you that to travel, and then it's going to cost you more for bullets, right? So at 50 cents a shot, or 35 cents a shot, whatever it is that you're paying for it, you're paying a few $100 for your weekend's entertainment.
Mate, it's like all that. It's all like that free deer that's in my freezer.
All the free deer. It's exactly right. The algorithm, if you're going to pay that money, you're going to try your damnedest to win the ribbon. Yeah. Right? And that will mean that your scores will improve, and it's easy to go up and it's hard to come back. So I think there's a certain stage in your shooting career that you might be able to hold yourself back a little bit, but that also means you're not winning. So there's, as soon as you win, there's some competitions. Like we shoot off basic meterage. You shoot off 15 meters away from the trap.
Yep.
Right. Then there's a competition called handicap. So if you're a C grader, you shoot off 15 meters. If you're a B grader, you shoot off 17 meters. If you're an A grader, you shoot off 19.
Like golf.
And you all shoot against each other. Right? You don't shoot against your grade now. You shoot against the whole pool of people. I'm C grade. I'm off 15 meters. But if I win that competition as a C grader, I gain a meter. I'm now a 16-meter shooter. If I'm a double A grade shooter and I've won 3 competitions or 4, I'm now shooting off 25 meters, not off 21 meters. I thought you're
shooting like your eye closed some.
But you want to, that's right, a handicap. You got to face the other way.
One hand.
So, but I don't think it's in anyone's competitive nature to bomb it and not take the prize home. You see this behind me, this pretty sash.
The ribbon? Yeah.
That's my ribbon. It's really manly. My wife was ribbing me about it, and I think Hendo's wife does as well. It's interesting that you guys go out there with your big guns and all your bullets and you shoot targets. It's all real manly, and you get a pink ribbon.
A little sash
to show you've done it. But anyway, it's been a fun re-entrant into the sport. It's good time in the Olympics on because it keeps me excited. But I'm about to start cross-disciplining. So we've been doing it basically down the line, which is the traditional trap shooting that you see.
Yeah, so the trap's in front of you in the box, and it's kind of shooting that way, and or is it crossing you?
No, that's skeet.
Okay, so
so down the line,
flying away from you.
It's flying away from me in an arc, and it could come out and go anywhere within that arc. But there's various different competitions in DTL. Yeah, skeet is where it goes across the front of you in both directions, and then they have universal trap, which is I think they have five traps at ground level, and they fling out twice as fast, so 100 kilometers an hour. In all sorts of directions at all sorts of heights. That's what you see a lot of. It's not quite what is at the Olympics. At the Olympics, they have 5 sets of 3. So three targets over, or 3 trap machines over here going in all different directions, and then another 3 and another 3 and another 3 and another 3. So you can't pick where the targets are going to go. So there's essentially 15 clay throwers under the ground in front of you. That's what they shoot at the Olympics, which is
I
Olympic
shot
trap.
one afternoon in England on, it was high tower, so they're way up high to
Yeah,
start
up here.
with.
Yeah, that's fun.
Way
Yep.
up high. And that's for high pheasants. That's what it's training you for.
Yeah, so it's almost
And I
got a
shot
tower.
a-
Yeah.
Yeah, and I shot a simulated field as well. Actually got some coaching by an Olympic coach that day. Simulated
Yeah, cool.
field. So to hold all different things, different situations. They come in different ways. You stood in the shooting position. You had the bar over you, so you couldn't go. You couldn't go
Yep.
more than vertical and stuff like that. And I did. There's a simulated field at Mount Petrie too. I did that years ago. That was really fun. Where they had ones that shoot across the ground as well.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I imagine sometime in our short-term future, you and Jono and I and a few of the other listeners that are in the region will head down to either Caboolture or Brisbane or Warwick. Warwick's got a really good one, and do a couple of rounds of sporting plays. You liken it to golf with shotguns. You walk the course, you shoot the targets. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I actually, the first time I did it, well, this is how long ago I did it. I did it with the pump action.
Right. In Australia.
Yes.
Very good.
I did it with my old duck gun.
Yeah, well, I've got my eye on...
500. I had my old Mossberg 500 with the duck barrel on it. 28-inch choke barrel.
Yeah, I've been watching a bit of the past Olympics because, in the Olympics, the host nation gets to choose the sports. Well, in the last Olympics, they had a shooting competition called doubles. We call it double rise here, commonly known as doubles, where two targets go out at the same time from the trap, and you've got double barrels, so you've got one on each. So it's called doubles. Doubles isn't in this year's Olympics for some reason, but that's a really fun one to shoot. But look, I encourage anyone who's got a vague interest in clay target shooting to head down to whichever their local club is and just ask them to have a go. Most of them have a come and try day where you can get down there and they'll lend you a gun. They'll go out one-on-one with you and they'll get you to shoot 25 targets or at 25 targets. And geez, I guarantee that at least half of you are going to fall in love with it. It's a very fun sport.
I used to love shooting clays.
Yeah,
it was great fun. I just like shooting moving targets, so it was good fun. And there's a one that it goes on report. So the first shot launches the second one. I can't remember what they call that one.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so it's a double, but the second one doesn't go until you fire at the first one. So it launches on report. So you say bang, and then so it's like basically it's like you're scaring a duck up or something like that. The first shot.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
You get a second.
Yeah.
So you've got to get that first one because the first one launches the second one, and all of a sudden you've got two in the air and only one barrel.
Yeah.
If you miss the first one.
We had a competition at Ballindine called Duval doubles. So it throws two targets out, but you've got a team member. And one's on the far left-hand side of the trap layout, one's on the far right-hand side. One of you calls it and you shoot across each other at the targets. And that's a lot of fun. That's a team game. But if you want to have a look at how that works, we've put a couple of videos up of the Ballindine shoot. I've started taking videos of the shoots for two reasons. One, there just isn't any social media coverage of the sport that we can find. There's a little bit out there of high level stuff, but not at a club level, so nothing really advertising what it's all about. The other reason I really enjoy doing it is because between shoots, it keeps your mind off shooting. Gives me something to do, so I wander around with the camera and annoy people with it. And it's been good and well received by the clubs. But in there you see the Doval doubles shoot, and it's really interesting how synchronized it is. Two shooters and often haven't shot together before. It's not a team thing that you practice. I showed up to the competition, put my hand up and said I need a partner for it. Someone said, "Yep, I need a buddy as well. Let's shoot that one together." It's a bit of a novelty event, so you're not worrying about your overall score. But when you watch the video, the unison of the pair of shooters is really interesting. So it's good. I think it's a lot of fun. Something good for hunters to get into off season.
Oh yeah.
keeps your gun fit, keeps your gun handy, but you just remain proficient so that when you're ready to pick up your rifle and go hunting, yes, it's a different gun, but all of those basic fundamentals you've still got well and truly under control.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of people we spoke to, like I know Steve Kelly, he was in Australia recently. I think he's gone back now. He shoots a lot in the UK, but they're mostly bird shooting. Jonathan McGee, who we've had on the podcast, he's heavily involved in competition as well as hunting. He does the little 410 thing, so they do like 410 days and all that kind of stuff. He's a real shotgun aficionado. So I've always enjoyed shooting clays, even if it was just a single out of the trap type thing. But that simulated field or the sporting clays, that was really fun.
Yeah, it's good fun. I look forward to getting into it, and there's enough of it around the state that we can all head out there and have a good time. So we'll try and organise something.
There's some video. I've actually got a video of me shooting at the tower because it was in the afternoon. I've got another one where I'm shooting shooting pigeons, and I'm picking up the pigeon not far off the ground too. I'll find those somewhere there because it leads itself great into certain types of hunting. Shooting from a blind in the UK on pigeons, and they often do it on crows as well, and then you've got the more traditional, the more well-known things like partridge and pheasant and woodcock and all those types of things. Yeah, it's great fun. I actually enjoyed many an afternoon walking around with the shotgun, trying to pick up a couple of birds for dinner.
Yeah,
great fun.
Yeah, there should be more of it. It would be remiss of me to not mention that getting back into shooting was encouraged by Scott at Beretta Australia. We had a good conversation with him about, as we do about a whole bunch of things, but was quite keen for us to pick the shotgun up and cover some of that. So they obviously support us in everything we do with the podcast, but they've given us some encouragement to get back into the shotgun shooting. And
yeah,
I don't know where you'll end up in all of that, Mark. I know you're an enthusiast on the field gunning, but Jono certainly signals his interest to get into the competition side and try his hand with it. But the other person who recognised that we've done this and offered to help us out was Matt from CR Kennedy as well. So CR Kennedy are the main importers of Pillar eyewear. So they're a performance eyewear. If you watch any of the Olympics or any major sports, cricket's another one that they support a lot of. They have some of the best eyewear in the world. So Matt's helped us out with some of that, and I can't believe the difference in the various different types of eyewear. You see different people with different colours, to block out certain light and to give you, I guess, a more enhanced focus on the colour of the clay target. But holy dooly, there's some science in Pillar's glasses.
Okay.
It's just, it's nuts. And even you go to some of the shoots, and Matt's given me a few different lenses to try. There are other people that have been, and Pillar's very well known in the shooting circles. So you'll go there, and there'll be a dozen other people that are shooting similar glasses, but the lenses are interchangeable. So if there's high cloud cover, you can get a much brighter lens. If it's really bright, you can get a darker lens. There's probably 100 lenses to choose from in the range to suit your specific. I mean, you can go down another rabbit hole here. But Matt was really good at helping me select some good lenses to suit what I was looking at. And what it does is it neutralizes the background colors, the blue sky and the green and the brown fields, and highlights the orange targets. And you stand there watching other people shoot, and all you can see is fragments of orange dust everywhere. As these, it's incredible, the difference. The other thing that I found was my eyes. I got blue eyes, and because of that, my eyes are very light sensitive. And I live in sunglasses. I can't really go outside comfortably, in the daytime without putting sunglasses on. Maybe that's a tolerance thing because that's what I've always done as well. But I find that I would squint a lot with bright light. Now, if you then went and got a yellow lens and put yellow lenses on, you would expect, that would be very bright and that's going to impact you. Now, certain brands of lenses that don't have the same sort of scientific capability built into them, that's exactly what happens. You end up just squinting a lot. So you got to put darker and darker and darker glasses on until you get something that's comfortable. These lenses that I'm using at the moment, they are super bright. So you put them on and everything is just crazy bright, but somehow your eyes are wide open. I don't know how they do it. Don't know what goes into it. I'll get down to the science of it at some point. Someone's probably going to listen and tell us all about it, Matt. But this is what happens. Your eyes are wide open. Everything's bright, neutralized background, and amazing orange targets in front of you. Their motto is the unfair advantage, and kind of feels that way a little bit. So anyway, thanks for Matt for contacting us. It's a pleasure using the eyewear for sure.
Yeah, many years ago I used to shoot open sight 30-30s, but I didn't shoot the traditional V sight. I used to shoot an aperture sight that was an aftermarket aperture sight, and I used to have a bit of trouble shooting, and what it was not my eyesight in terms of focus or vision, but picking up that and picking up a shape was a bit odd. And a guy suggested shooting glasses, and I ended up with that kind of opaque yellow, and all of a sudden the post and all that became very much easier for me to see, and I hunted with that quite effectively for a number of years, but I still wear these yellow glasses when I was hunting because it just made it, whatever it did something with the reflection of the metal on the post and the aperture and all that stuff, but it just worked a treat. So yeah, I've had some experience of shooting glasses and the effectiveness of them. I haven't used them for years, but and telescopic sights are different things again, but when I was shooting open sights, I used to use them all the time.
Yeah, well, next time we get the opportunity, I'll get you to try these on and see what you think. It's quite an experience.
Or you can just get a little, what's the name? The Acro red dot, the shotgun one, which is the ring.
Well, you can get what they call. It's slightly different. I guess it's not a sight. You can get shot cam. Shot cam is a product that bolts to the bottom of the barrel and videos what you're doing. And you can go and play it back, and you can see why you missed your target. You can see whether you're shooting under or over or behind.
And I've seen the one where they project the laser too, that shows you where, so you can get the idea of leading.
Yeah.
So it gives you a much better idea of where you're actually pointing into, because that's, that's often a challenge. You got to lead it. You got to give it a fair bit of lead depending on what you're shooting is, and people tend to undercompensate the need for a lead.
Yeah, that's very true. So that's the journey. We'll keep you updated. Lots of things going to go on with it. We're certainly encouraging a whole bunch of new shooters into the sport. That's the idea. You'll see a series of videos that are coming out. If you're not a shotgun shooter, I don't apologise. Just don't watch the videos. It's all good. Send them to a friend that does like it. But there'll be a playlist up there for people to get into that will discuss a whole bunch of things around shotgunning, and we'll touch on it from time to time. But try not to overbore the people that don't enjoy it.
Yeah, and our next conversation is going to be about the territory, I think.
Yes, it will. 4 weeks.
It's getting very close.
It is. Yeah.
And we haven't got anything organised.
In true style. Yes, that's a very good point. But we'll save that conversation for probably next week, I imagine.
Yep. Okay, buddy.
Good on you, mate. Thank you. We'll catch up with you.
See ya.
See ya.